When reviewing the quadratic formula with students, in this lesson I'm focused on what is the order of operations to be able to simplify the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I go ahead and go over the substitutions with them because even in part 2 of this worksheet they won't need to be able to make the substitutions, but in the exit slip they'll need to be able to go through the whole process. And so x equals opposite of b would be positive 3. Plus or minus means you're going to get two solutions. Square root of b squared, and make sure since it's being squared that you put that in parentheses because you should get a positive result whether that number is negative or positive, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 1. And divided by the whole thing, divided by 2 times a, or 2 times 2. And so we talk about, well, order of operations. We know that the fraction bar separates the top and the bottom, so we'll need to evaluate the top and the bottom separately. If we start with the top, or the numerator of the fraction, we'll need to simplify the radical first. So if we concentrate on that, that would be x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared is positive 9. Since I only have one minus 4 times 2 times 1, that's minus 8. If I would have had two minuses, like a negative 4 minus 2 and times a 1, that would be a positive 8. Or if I would have had three negatives, that would have been also a negative again. So you need to keep in mind about what those signs are to keep that, if it's going to be a minus or a plus underneath the radical. And so then 9 minus 8 underneath the radical would be positive 1. On the bottom you'd still just have 2 times 2, which is 4. We still need to simplify the numerator completely, so it's going to be 3 plus or minus square root of 1 divided by 4, and then that's going to be 3 plus or minus the square root of 1. Once you simplify all of the pieces underneath the radical down to one number, then you just go ahead and take the square root, and the square root of 1 is 1. So now you have 3 plus or minus 1 divided by 4. Again, you don't complete that division until you complete the numerator down to one number. So we have two options here, 3 plus 1, which is going to be 4, divided by 4 to get one of the solutions, or the x-intercepts, which is going to be 1. And the other option is, the other solution is 3 minus 1 divided by 4, which is 2 divided by 4, which reduces to 1/2. So the x-intercepts are 1 and 1/2, so this parabola is going to be very narrow. And so because you can tell that the x-intercept, the x-coordinate of the vertex is going to be at 3/4, and then you'd substitute in to get the y value of the vertex. But the x-intercepts are at 1 and 1/2, and that's what the quadratic formula provides. So when simplifying this, students need to focus on the order of operations, complete what's underneath the radical first, then take the square root, and then go ahead and simplify the numerator and the denominator separately if you're doing this by hand without technology. And the technology will take care of that. We'll talk about that later if you substitute it in correctly into the calculator. But for right now, make sure you separate the numerator and the denominator, do the order of operations completely, and then when you get those both down to one number, then you can actually complete the division.